Hello everybody and welcome back to the Stellaris how-to guide, and today we're going to be checking out ship types and its strengths and weaknesses and why it's better for you to look into creating your own designs rather than using the auto design feature. Now if you're struggling with trying to get to grips with everything in this game, there's a lot of stuff in this game. If you're struggling to get to grips, then by all means use the auto feature that the game has and concentrate on something else. However, if you're looking to become a militaristic kind of way into the game where you're battling a lot and using your ships a lot, then I strongly suggest you take a look at this guide and look into creating your own ship styles that can combat almost any empire. It's very important that you blend yourself in a way that you can take on ships with high shield and with high hull damage, because depending on what empire you're facing will depend on what style of ships they use, and each AI has its own abilities. So let's have a look into what we have so far. It's also worth noting that this is the 2.2.7 version of the game, so we've restarted and I've got it up to the destroyer class just so I can show you this is just a single hull ship and the destroyer is a twin. As you get to cruisers and above, it's 3 ship parts to create your ship design. So we'll look into the Corvette first and why a Corvette is actually one of the most important classes you can build within your fleet, for many reasons. One being they are cheap, very cheap compared to every other type of ship design, and also every time you go up in a class it increases the amount of command points it uses. So a Corvette's a single point. So at the moment we've got 3 Corvettes already built, so if you take them out of the equation and rebuild them into what you want, you can have 50 Corvettes, and numbers do count for something. Even in this type of game, if you got overwhelming odds, then you are going to come out on top. Not to mention, if you take the advice I'm about to give you about the build of Corvettes, you'll actually find that you'll find it a lot easier to combat enemies over a wide variety of any kind of attacks and stuff like that you face. So why is it important to build your own style of ships? Right, so if you do the auto generate design, it will generate based on what's the strongest you have researched. Now that may be lasers or it may be coil drives. It all depends on what you research. Bear in mind, when you're researching, you want to try and spread your choice of weaponry as best you can, but you also want to remember you want to improve on certain weaponry as well. However, improving on just weaponry will struggle when it comes down to using your power supply. So let's have a quick gander at a standard Corvette class. So we'll just do a new design. So this is what you've got as your base. You've got 70 power, 300 hull points. Your armor shields are nothing. Evasion is 64%, which is another reason why this ship is so good. It can evade larger ships. Cause a lot of problem for larger ships, and it's also fast as well and great against piracy. If you're using the trade routes quite heavily, you need Corvettes to defend your trade routes. So we've got a few designs that I've already worked on, the laser, mass drive and missile, and we'll go into them in a moment. What I want to first do is look at the picket ship. So you get a choice of 3 for the Corvettes: missile boat, interceptor and picket ship. Your missile boat is as it stands, it's got a guided missile on board. Interceptor is your backbone, 3 small weapon slots. And your picket ship has a point defense system and 2 weapon slots. This is very useful if you used correctly. Picket ships are great for taking out missiles that are coming in your way. They've got point defenses, so they're good front support. But since they're facing missiles, you want to get your missile defense up on them, and certainly need a lot of them to defend the other 2 types. Your missile boat's sat at the back, so you necessarily don't need as much defense on them. Interceptors, again, they'll be taking out other Corvette class ships. So let's go into our picket ship. So we have point defense, 2 small weapons, an auxiliary and 3 small utility components. So you can choose flak battery, which they are great against like small fighters, and you got your sentinel point defense, which can take out missiles as well. These are probably better These are probably better at early doors because a lot of them won't use hangars, and you can probably take out the ships anyway. I mean, there's nothing to say you can't build 2 types, but we'll go for the Sentinel point defense. And I want this one to be this one. So we're using a small coil gun. As you can see there, it's got plus shield damage. Coil guns are kinetic and they take out shields quite rapidly, and you're going to need a mixture of that when you're coming into combat. So this one is designed to take out shields quite rapidly for us, which means our other ships that have got the energy weapons will then eat into them. I'm probably going to presume it's going to take a lot of power, so we'll get a reactor booster going, and then I want to put shields on this, 2 lots of shields and extra armor just in case. So we'll call this a kinetic point defense. Kinetic point defense corvette. We can auto upgrade, so we don't need to worry about upgrading the weapons until we come to putting different weapons on. You can fill empty slots, but we don't need to worry about that. What I have done here is it's obviously I filter by slot size, so when I click on the slot it'll only show me what's relevant for that, and anything obsolete. So if we remove that, we can see older components. So if you want to build cheaper ships, then use the obsolete components and then upgrade at a later stage if you're struggling for money. But there we go. Let's go back into our ship designer. So we've now got quite a few corvette designs that I've put in place. Laser corvette, which is obviously great for breaking down enemy hulls. The mass drive corvette, which is designed for taking out the shields. The missile corvette, which will mainly take out hulls, but it will do some small shield damage. And kinetic point defense, as we've just discussed. And the ship designs are pretty cool for the Earth race, which we've picked here. So all of these here, these are your core ship things that you need. You can't run without these. Your reactor, your hyperdrive, your thrusters, your radar, and your combat computer. Okay, so your combat computer is one thing to note. Each ship type has a specific kind of phase that it does when it engages with the enemy. Obviously with corvette it will just go straight in, whereas when you use something like a destroyer class, which it should show me, there we go, it'll advance to the range and then it'll intercept. So you can improve them at a later stage, I believe. And then we got some upkeep prices here. As I mentioned earlier, the more expensive the ship are, the higher the upkeep cost is going to be, so you want to be careful of that. And then your general cost of how much it's going to cost you in alloys to build. So you've got your ship designs now. We've got our 4 corvette designs that we've got. It's based down to what you want your fleet to succeed doing. If you find you're facing an enemy on a front that has high shield capacities, then you can switch up your fleet to carry more mass drive corvettes, and you can completely alter your ships to whatever you want it to do. It's worth bearing in mind that you don't need to necessarily keep up to date with this. You don't even need to check it that often. It's auto upgrading, so when you get new coil guns or small point defenses or anything like that, it will upgrade them all for you. But keep popping by and checking what you've got. So that's corvettes, the very cheap and very required ship. Let's have a look at the destroyer, which is twice the amount that you're going to need for naval capacity, but it has a hell of a lot more on it. And you got your bow and your stern, which is what I discussed earlier. When it comes to using a destroyer or anything bigger, you've got 2 components, and you can really, I mean, this is great. I like this because you can really customize these ships, and this is really boiling down to what you want it to do. So if you want it just pure gunship, then you can pure gunship it, giving you 2 medium weapons and 2 small weapons, 6 small utilities and an auxiliary. If you want it to take out pickets or weapons, oh that's nice, look at artillery, a large weapon. So you can just carry 1 large weapon, and then you can have it do picket. So this is basically an artillery platform now. Okay, yeah, you can pick the interceptor, which will be too small, so that'll defend yourself against smaller ships. But you've got a lot of corvettes, so do you need to worry about that? But we can just make this so it's got... There we go. So that will now defend us against missiles. And then we can choose... Now, these are larger variations of what we've already got. Not brilliant for artillery, but it'll still do. And then we can plant it with plenty of... Well, we can actually get... I think we can get away with afterburners. Yes, we can. So that ship's going to be quite fast because it's got afterburners on it as well. So this is an artillery. So we can call it an artillery. Artillery destroyer. We can auto upgrade as usual, and we can save it. So that's a basic design on a destroyer, which is nice. We can now change. Oh, we'll get rid of that one. We can create a new design, another destroyer, and then this time I want to do a gunship. And then we'll do an interceptor, so we've got plenty of weapons. And then I want this to take out hulls, so I'm actually going to put blue lasers. But then I'm going to put a couple of coil guns on the back. So they'll take out shields. And then, again, there's nothing to say you have to put them like that. I just like it because it looks a little different. And then afterburners so we can get it out of the way. There we go. So this one being mainly a laser destroyer. You can call it whatever you want. There's nothing to say you can't call it anything. Now bear in mind, if you're playing this game in the style that you should play this game in, your empire is set for its traits that you're playing for. So if you're a militaristic style gameplay, and you've got that edict for your empire, then you're going to really want to concentrate on your military. It says it all, really. If you're a peaceful race, then you just get smaller ships that are just going to be like your policing control and stuff like that. You can really work on these designs to get plenty of designs for your corvettes, so you've got every kind of aspect of covering yourself. And don't forget as well, you can do your defense platforms, which will do one. Oh, you can't remove that one. Did not know that. Your defense platforms, again, you got two sections for defense platforms on any defense platform, and you can do anything like that. Now, I love these hangars, so you can have fighters coming out, heavy weapons. There's so much choice. So we'll do a hangar one first. So that is literally our hangar, and you can have a basic strike craft or scout wing. Ooh. That's pretty cool. Reactor boosters, not that we need them. And then we'll hit shields and armor. So that's quite a heavy defense platform, even though it's not really got any offensive capabilities. It's just going to drop fighters. So this is going to be a hangar platform. Again, just the same as you do with these ships, it's important to have a variety of platforms, because you don't know what you're going to be facing, and defense platforms are really going to be your last line of defense. Well, or certainly your first line of defense if your fleet's not in range. So it needs to take a battering before your fleet can get in there to finish them off. And having a good defense system really can turn a tide of battle. Now, another thing to note is, once you started building these, it will give you a military power. Now, military power does have an effect on your kind of relations with the enemy. Now, if we have a look at our... Where are we? We got contacts. Our relative power is they're all overwhelming to us because we don't have a fleet at the moment. The stronger the fleet you build, then the better you're going to be standing against them, or at least the more formidable you look. So it'll stop them from attacking you. Very important, especially if you've got one that is a very pushy AI. Not so much when you're playing on multiplayer, because obviously you can just read into each other's gameplay. worth noting that having a higher fleet power doesn't necessarily mean you've got a better fleet. You could be facing a 1k fleet with a 1k fleet. One of them fleets will come out on top, and it's all boiled down to your kind of strengths and weaknesses against each other. So when we're talking about using weapons that take out shields against an enemy that uses high shields, you're going to come out on top. Even though your force may be a lot less in power, you may still come out the victor because your shields will hold on if they've only got, you know, laser weapons. So it's worth bearing that in mind. So when you come to building your fleet, keep an eye on the enemy and make sure you fight against them using the weapons that are completely countering the offensive and defensive capabilities. So that is it for this video. I just want to go into kind of the fleets, ship designs. What I will do is as we progress in the guide and as I progress this playstyle through and showing you different variations of things, I will go on to the bigger ships and I will actually bring in the cruisers, and we'll start talking about like the upgrades and things like that, and we'll have a look into that in a little bit more detail. But for now, bear in mind you can only build them at a shipyard, so make sure you've got plenty of shipyards going, and it'll also tell you here what each one can do. So that's how it looks. That's what you're going to want. Keep your fleet up. Remember, the bigger the fleet, the more cost it's going to be, so it's going to have a negative effect on your economy, which may make it slower for you to progress. So it's a fine balance. And as earlier stated, if you are really struggling with trying to design these ships, then there is the auto design feature. Use it. It will still help you, and it will still give you a great combat effectiveness and allow you to learn the game. Any questions or comments, make sure you leave them down below. If you'd like to see any guide on anything whatsoever in Stellaris ahead of when I've already planned to do them, then please ask below and I will get you the guide gone earlier than I've planned and get it up for you. Until next time, everybody, take care for now, and I'll see you all on the next one. Bye bye.